Welcome, everybody, to People's Depot Podcast. I am so excited to see everyone here. In this particular segment, we're going to be talking about gold and silver. We're going to talk about why should I acquire gold and silver, and when should I buy gold and silver. This podcast, if you're interested in the audio portion, will be on peoplesdepotpodcast.com. If you want to see the video portion of this podcast, then you want to go to the peoplesdepot.com/podcast videos. I want to welcome everyone here. We have a very, very special event for you. As you know, or as many of you know, People's Depot is all about helping businesses start and grow. We give insane profitable niches that you can use in your business. We give you world-class training, world-class resources to operate your business efficiently. But today, we're going to be talking a little bit about gold and silver. It is one of my passions, and it is also a niche that we utilize to help you grow your business. In today's podcast, we have a very special visitor. His name is Michael Miles Standish, better known as Miles Standish. Now, an interesting thing about him, by Coin World Magazine, he had the privilege of being recognized as being one of the 10 top most influential people from 1960 to 2022 in Numismatics. He is a tough act to follow. I kid you not. So let's give our attention to Miles Standish. Miles, how you doing?
Hey, thank you, Stephen. And I want to thank you for having me on the People's Depot podcast. I really appreciate it. It's very kind of you.
Thank you. I'm glad you were able to be here. Thank you so much. Tell us a little bit about yourself.
Well, I've made a lifetime out of the understanding study, looking at over 10 million coins, but understanding the numismatic marketplace. I've been involved in both stacking, collecting numismatic coins and bullion since the 1970s. I actually, started at my mother's kitchen table finding silver dimes and silver quarters in bank wrap rolls of coinage. That's when I started stacking. I was both a coin collector, autograph collector, sports memorabilia collector at an early age.
Wow, that is amazing. It's interesting. You've written several books. I was looking at one of your books, The Morgan Dollar. I don't know if you're familiar with this book, but it talked a little bit about your history. Now, you may not have known I was checking up on you, but it was interesting that it mentioned that your grandfather had a snack shop.
Yes, he did. In Augusta, Michigan, it was called Stan's Snack Shop.
Okay.
They're through high school and a few years after that, and they ran it together.
All right. And it mentioned how they used to go I guess at the end of the day, I would assume this would be at the end of the day, they would go through the drawers and see some of the coins, see which coins that might be a collectible. And it was interesting. It mentioned that your father was sweeping the floor one day and he found a three-legged buffalo nickel.
That's correct. And it was the buffalo nickels were struck in 1937. And the coin that he found it in the late 1940s, probably around 47 or 48. So the coin had been in circulation for a while, but somebody must have not ever noticed that it was a three-legged buffalo nickel, and it was dropped on the floor. And at sweep up time at night, my father was sweeping the floor with a broom, and he came across this nickel, and after closer examination, determined that it was one of the three-legged buffalo nickels.
Wow, he must have been ecstatic. in the book, it says that was the start of the Standish coin collecting.
Yeah. Yes, 3 generations that I know of at least.
That is amazing. I mean, it's, you know, you've been in, well, let me ask you, you've been in the coin industry and you've also graded coins, correct?
Yeah, I've worked for
Or
3 of the
certified?
major grading services, PCGS for nearly 30 years and NGC for 6 years,
Okay.
ANAX for 2 years. But the prime services of my time were NGC and PCGS, and I was a co-founder of Collectors Universe that owned PCGS and PSA.
Okay, all right. Now, how many coins came across your desk?
You know, in my lifetime in the grading business, I've graded more than 10 coins.
Let's say it again. I think it kind of, how many?
Over 10 million coins.
How do you touch 10 million coins to grade? How is that possible?
There was probably a lot of months where I graded 50 to 60,000 coins over that period of time.
Really? That is amazing.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
but I always had the capability twice as fast as the other team of graders grading coins. I just had a knack for it. So my speed and accuracy was maintained very high. And like I said, I could grade sometimes a multiple over other graders. So, you know, it was why I excelled at that type of work.
do you really want to know the reason why you were able to do that? I think I figured it out.
Go ahead. I got to hear this.
So when you love what you do it effortlessly.
Right.
And there's nothing to it. And you love what you do. And so, you know, people don't realize, but it is an amazing thing to be able to do something that you love to do. I mean, it is just off the chain. And so People's Depot is all about helping people find that through what we do is online marketing, but it's helping people really find what they really want to do. Sometimes you go through life not really knowing what you're good at or what you want to do. And so that's why we do what we do. And you are a sterling example of a person that loves what they do. So that is a great thing. That is a great thing. Now, you know, it's interesting. We're talking about gold and silver here, and there's some things that I want our audience to be able to understand. Now, why should they acquire, or anyone acquire, gold and silver?
Well, just like I've been holding on to gold and silver most of my adult life and into when I was even a teen, you know, obviously we're in inflationary times, and you know, gold is a hedge. Gold and silver and sound money is a hedge against inflation. It's also, you know, it's a big hedge if in the event that you know, fiat money runs out of gas. And you know, it's been widely known that, you know, a lot of currencies in the history of civilization have failed over a period of time. So, you know, even though we've been in a certain system, we've been in the current system since 1971, when we went off the gold standard with our current fiat system. So in 71, we went off the gold standard, and we're over 50 years now of that standard. And personally, I believe it's running out of gas. I don't make any investment advice, but, you know, I think at some point we're going to see some form of change. The outcome, we don't know. Gold and silver and sound money have always been involved and have always been to the advantage of someone that has it in their hands when a currency has devalued or been replaced.
Yes, that's interesting. You mentioned three things. You mentioned we went off the gold standard. In fact, Nixon made that announcement in August of 71, I believe. And when you say go off the gold standard, for my audience, what does that really mean?
Well, when the United States was on the gold standard, basically they couldn't print currency unless they had gold to cover what was produced. And, you know, some of the history on that same subject goes back to 1933, when Roosevelt recalled all U.S. gold coins in 1933 from the public under an executive order. And the reason that he did that was to be able to print money, because we were in the Great Depression. We'd been in the Great Depression since 1929. And he was trying to get us out of the Great Depression. And the only way that typically that governments get countries out of depressions is print more money. To accelerate the activity in the marketplace, they put more money into the market. But because the way the rules worked at the time, he couldn't do that unless he had the gold to print the money. And by buying back the gold in exchange for currency, he was able to try to invigorate the economy with more currency into the marketplace. Well, unfortunately, it did not work. And, you know, probably the last effort that he made to try to get us out of the Depression, which is, it's sad for humanity reasons, but he got us into World War II. And World War II, of course, that puts everybody back to work for the war effort. So it was his second attempt to get us out of the Depression, and obviously going into the war, which took several years, you know, got us out of that depression. But we were in such a deep one. That was his strategy. His first attempt was valid, but it didn't work.
Wow. So today, money is being printed that is not backed by gold. Am I correct in saying that?
Right. It has basically, you know, it's air. It has no value. As you know, it's lost so much, it's diminished so much value behind it. And with rising inflation, it's even going faster.
Yes. You know, I think I read something that said that there's been more money printed in the last almost 2 years in this country than in the history of this country. I don't know how accurate that is, but that seems to be the buzz by those that are in the financial industry. And that's interesting. You mentioned one other thing. You said gold and silver can act as a hedge against inflation. What does that mean?
Well, that's the defense in case, all hell breaks loose and you need something of value to be able to, you know, pay bills or food or pay your mortgage. And the hedge is that, you know, inflation goes so high, you know, you still have something of value. And that's the value of having sound money, gold and silver. And as I always say, gold, silver, platinum, they all fall into the same class. But you know, it's unfortunate, but the people that we've voted for in our country, they've disappointed us, not doing a very good job running the household budget. It would be no way to run a household budget, and our country has spent us into oblivion. And you have to understand something. 1981, we had $1 trillion in debt. And I remember that very clearly in 1981 when we eclipsed right over $1 trillion. And of course, today in 2022, we're at $30 trillion in our national debt. And you've got to remember, I was holding gold and silver when it was $1 trillion in debt as a hedge, not knowing how they were going to ever hold it back. We don't know the number that it will take to be able to break the fiat currency. But, you know, we can only be closer if we're pushing 30 trillion in our national debt.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. So basically, we can wake up one morning and have $1,000 in our pocket and it'd be worthless if the currency crashes. And so our extra protection could be that sound money, which is gold or silver. And
right.
Because it doesn't lose value. You know, I was reading some information. A company made this analogy. I think it was 65, back in 1965. They said that $1 was 1 ounce of silver. And you can buy a Ford Mustang for $2,500 or 2,500 ounces of silver. Today, you can't buy a Ford Mustang for $2,500. I doubt if you could buy the tires, but you can buy almost 2 Ford Mustangs for 2,500 ounces of silver.
Yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it is. It is. It's a sad that shows inflation to people and the cost of goods.
Yes, yes. I used the image on one of my sites of coffee, and I took from I believe 1980 or 1990 down to 2000, and I just showed what the coffee cost was throughout various years, showing inflation. And that's interesting. But one other thing is, when should I buy gold and silver? I think you alluded to it, but I want to make that clear. We talked about why we should acquire gold and silver, but when should I buy it? When should I get it?
Well, I think you should make a constant program of buying gold and silver. I don't think it should be just waiting for the perfect moment. I think you should cost average along the way, meaning buy it on a monthly basis, buy it on a weekly basis. That would be or buy it on a quarterly basis, but buy what you can and buy what you can afford.
Absolutely. You know, I think that I try to get some every month. Actually, I do get some every month. I wasn't always into gold and silver, but I learned some things about gold and silver. I might have gotten to it for the wrong reasons, but now I appreciate what I get. And it's something interesting. I didn't really appreciate coins or collector coins until really looking at this book here. You know, it talked about the Morgan dollar.
I'm glad I changed you with one book.
Actually, I have 3 of your books. This
Now,
is another one.
For Eagle second edition.
Yeah, and then the other one, I couldn't put my hands on it right away. I wish I could have, so I could have showed the audience that I have it. But, you know, we look at collector's coins, and, you know, I understood value. I know that when something is rare, it brings about value. When something has a great story, it brings about value to the coin. Rarity and story is one of the 2 biggest things. But it was in my mind something always missing about the collector's coin. And it wasn't until I was reading about the history of the Morgan coin, the Morgan dollar, that I began to understand that when you look at a coin, you're looking at the history that coin existed. I mean, how many events occurred during that coin? And it was a lot of events it really talked about that we actually learned in our history classes in school, at least I did, that Morgan dollar existed. And so to be able to hold that dollar in your hand, you're actually holding a piece of history. I mean, that's the way I viewed it from your book.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's great. I'm glad that you appreciated the book that much that you could get wrapped around that real intrinsic value of history in collecting.
Yeah, I want to thank you for that, Miles. You're a very good person. A lot of people, I've shook your hand maybe twice in my life, maybe a third, but you as a person, you really are inviting. You can tell that you're willing to help, and that is a unique quality, especially with a person that has your talent in this field. Oftentimes when people are well known or even recognized or have great talent, they don't take time for people in general, and you actually do that, and I really appreciate that about you. Now let me ask you something. We talked about why should we acquire gold and silver. We talked about when should we buy gold and silver, but let's talk a little bit about the breakdown of gold and silver. There's this, what is this bullion thing and this numismatic thing? What is that?
Well, you know, bullion is only collected for based on its metal value. Numismatic coins are legal tender coins that are held on to and purchased because of the intrinsic value of their availability. They might be gold and silver, but it's because of their their availability, their demand, their interest, maybe their condition might be, because of quality of condition, that they're collected for those reasons. So where, bullion is, basically typically comes in a coin that is not necessarily collected because of its rarity, but be collected because of its value of the actual gold. Where it could be also a bar, could be a 1 ounce bar, a 10-ounce bar of gold, a kilo of gold, and the same way with silver, where it might be a 1 ounce, 10 ounce, or a 100-ounce bar of silver. But that's bought because of its metal value. And you can track that daily in the marketplace based on the spot price of silver and gold, where numismatic coins, where you are capable of, checking out its value on a daily basis, but they don't necessarily move on a daily basis up and down.
Yeah, that's interesting. Now you actually are now designing coins. Am I correct in that?
Yeah, I've designed over 50 coins exclusively, and they're the only company in the world that I design coins for is 7K Metals.
Okay.
And the reason that I only do that with 7K Metals is because they accepted my first design, and out of respect and relationship for people that took a risk on me, I'd only design for them exclusively.
That's a wonderful thing. I've heard of 7K, and that's good. Matter of fact, do you mind if we show one of your designs? I think I was able to pick one out. Hold on. Let me share the screen here. Can you see this? Can you see it, Miles?
Absolutely. I see the USS Arizona Remember Pearl Harbor 5-ounce silver.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, it's just the writing and the description of the coin.
Yeah, I picked this coin out for a specific reason. And I just have to ask, does this coin really look like this?
Well, I'll tell you, the blue water and the aquamarine that is above the US Arizona, it's depicted very well in this photograph. But once you hold that coin in a graded holder in your hands, it'll mesmerize you in the beauty of the color. And those are the kind of coins that I want to be involved in designing. And I want to work with mints that can produce such vibrance of the reality of what it genuinely looks like, excuse me. I've been to Pearl Harbor several times, and I've been to the USS Arizona. It's an incredible site, very somber, obviously, but it just, if you don't feel something when you've gone to the Arizona, then you have no pulse. It's an incredible place to visit.
Wow. And so on that coin, and I'm glad you said that, on that coin, we can see the waves. You can actually see the waves on that coin.
Right. Those are the ripples of the water in Pearl Harbor at the Arizona Memorial.
That is amazing.
Most people don't realize this. I know the first time over 30 years, first time I visited Pearl Harbor, I was always amazed how Pearl Harbor was so small. It's incredibly small. Maybe I just had this bigger vision of it because, big ships obviously need a big harbor, but I really, it just appeared smaller to me than what I've seen it on TV. I've seen it in the movies. I watched, the 1970s, I watched Tora, Tora, Tora. And then of course, Pearl Harbor, the movie, it's just, it's a very special place, as they call it, the Pearl.
Yeah, that's amazing. And
of course, this series of coins, it came about obviously because I had a vision of the 80th anniversary coming up in 2021. And that's why I was allowed to design this coin, because I thought the theme was important. The 80th anniversary of Pearl Harbor was important to recognize, and to be able to design coins that hopefully people would enjoy to collect was extremely important to me. And it seems to have been very favorable and very exciting for collectors to obtain these coins.
Yeah, that's real nice. I had intended to show some coins. I didn't pull those coins out, but I'll show them in later videos. But we talked about what helps a coin increase in value. The story behind this coin is amazing, but the rarity. So how many coins were minted?
You know, of this 5-ounce coin, this is 5 ounce in silver. There's 1,177 5-ounce coins. And that number represents the sailors that were entombed in the Arizona on December 7th, 1941. You know, some of them survived for several days entrapped in the Arizona. The waters were full of oil. The danger of trying to rescue some of those sailors, I guess it became an impossible feat. And ultimately, you know, through Morse code, some of those survivors that were later entombed there, who did not get saved and rescued, they were using Morse code on the hull of the ship, trying to tell people, you know, how many people were alive at the time down below, and that, you know, please send help. But it was a total of 1,177 ultimately that were entombed in the Arizona. And we dedicated this number to this particular coin for each one of those sailors that were entombed that day.
Wow. A story behind the number. And that number makes this coin, helps with the rarity, because it's not like 100,000 of these were minted. Like you see coins as 100,000 and they'll take forever. I mean, the rarity just won't happen real quick there. But with this, it will. And the story, there's not only a story behind the event, there's a story behind the rarity, meaning the number that you minted.
Yeah, there'll be people that will be trying to acquire this coin, you know, and this coin recently became for sale, and it was completely sold out in 22 seconds online.
It's already rare.
Yeah. And a lot of people had a lot of hurt feelings because they couldn't get one. And I believe for years to come, people will still be in search of this coin, not only because of the design, but the significance of the 80th anniversary, and that it was the first time ever a series had been dedicated to Pearl Harbor and the USS Arizona. It's a 3-coin series, a 1 ounce, a 2 ounce, and a 5 ounce. And I believe for years to come, long after I'm gone, people will be in search of these coins.
Yeah, that's amazing. That is amazing. And this is what I wanted to get into, so people can understand a numismatic coin. So this is a numismatic coin.
Well, and you know, the other thing that should be mentioned, because I think a lot of people get captivated by the color of the coin and the design of the coin. But as you can see, just to the right of the actual memorial that goes over the Arizona, in that wreath type looking area to the right of the memorial, just above the letters N and A of Arizona at the bottom of the coin, that is a piece of the hull of the US Arizona that's embedded in that coin.
Really?
And it is the only collected coin ever struck, legal tender coin, with an actual piece of the hull from the USS Arizona in it.
Wow.
I try to create ideas and deliver things that have multiple facets of interest, that you don't just talk about one thing, that it's a coin. You know, you talk about the relief of the coin, the colors of the coin, the an actual piece of memorabilia from the actual ship itself of the subject of the coin, the limited edition number. There's multiple reasons why people will want these in demand for many years to come.
Wow. That is amazing. That is amazing. And so I think I got a few other slides here. This is kind of the back of the coin, correct?
Mm-hmm.
And is there anything special about this back here?
Well, it's truly honor to the memorial. I know I gave you so much information about the front of the coin. It's like, well, so what's going on with the back here?
I had to ask.
I know this for myself, Stephen, visiting Pearl Harbor. I've heard taps played at Pearl Harbor before.
Okay.
I believe that's the right call for the bugle call. But obviously it's the death of a soldier. But I've heard taps played, not necessarily at Pearl Harbor, but at different funerals that I've attended. It's a chilling, eerie event. It's goosebumps for me. Very emotional. And, that's the honor that those 1,177 sailors deserve.
Yeah. Okay, real good. And so this is kind of how the coin looks as a numismatic coin.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the actual look of that coin. Great, great. Miles, you do a great job with your design. This is your so this is a big deal in that this is your focus now, is coin designing. This is your business, correct?
Yeah, that's one of the things that I'm working on. I'm working on more books.
Okay.
One in particular, I think, will be significant to probably more the bullion area, but there'll be some numismatic stories in it also.
Okay.
But in 1933, when the executive order was signed by Roosevelt, a lot of those coins were melted down into bar format. Well, they needed to build a place to house those 400-ounce gold bars for the government surplus of gold. And what they ended up building that was finished in 1936 was Fort Knox, Kentucky, the U.S. Gold Vault. And so that'll be the next book that I'll publish.
And that'll be an interesting book, and I will acquire that book as well. And I appreciate that you going into detail on this coin. What you're doing it's I appreciate it. And I'm sure my audience does as well. We focused on why should we acquire gold and silver. We focus on why should I buy gold and silver, or when should I buy gold and silver. We talked about numismatic coins, and we talked about bullions, things of that nature. And basically, a bullion is a non-collectible coin. It's like you said. So these are the things that our audience wants to know, because they need to understand that what these facets are, so they're not so fearful in getting involved or actually going to acquire gold and silver. In future videos and podcasts, I will share with them information on where they can acquire safely gold and silver. But I wanted to focus on what it really was. I wanted to just answer the question that, so that in their minds, they can get an idea of what they're really looking for. People tell you not to get numismatic coins. In my mind, that's a big mistake. But why? And then for a person to understand, they need to know what a numismatic coin is. If you don't know, you'll just go by what people say. But on this podcast, I wanted to make available to people the information, what it is. And in my mind, you are the sound authority. So it was so important that you were here, Miles.
Thank you.
No,
well, I think when you run into people that tell you, and I'll use a couple of examples, and so that viewers can get an idea. But I think when people say don't buy numismatic coins, it's probably coming from somebody that sells something else, and they don't sell numismatic coins. I know, for example, I get on a daily basis, literally multiple times a daily basis, people trying to sell me cryptocurrency. And I just don't I don't happen to handle or deal anything with cryptocurrency. So I just say, politely, I decline. But it's hard to focus, have knowledge on everything. I've learned a lot of different things in this lifetime. And then there's things that I, devote my life to learning more on, and I can't know everything. And it's not like I'm against cryptocurrency, but I can't know everything. So I've focused on the things that I really, really am entrenched in, that want to know more about. And even though I've been more involved in numismatics my entire life, gold and silver bullion is extremely important to talk about. Okay. And I don't sell these products, so I'm not promoting it based on, buy this from me. Okay. I'm telling you, have both. You decide to what degree that you want, but have both. I try to share it as well as I can, so people understand that, I'm not saying this because I sell it. Okay. I'm saying it because I believe in both of them. And I believe, I believed in both of them all my life, but I think we're getting closer to what I believed in, for the deep rooted reasons of why, than ever before.
I think you are right with that statement. I see that little award behind you on the wall of top 10 most influential. That's what we were talking about earlier. That is very nice, Miles. Congratulations to you and all of your work. But you've gone a little bit further. I think your wife is the founder of a foundation, right? The Standish Foundation?
Yeah, the StandishFoundation.org. It is entirely Andrea's passion, to help children throughout this country and the world. And she has dedicated it for now over 13 years, which, believe me, a nonprofit organization that relies solely on volunteers, it's hard to do a foundation for that long. And I've always been a committed donor to that foundation. Amazon has now made it easier for people that may not be able to afford to donate, but if they shop at Amazon, Amazon has made it easy, because if you go to Amazon and you go into their charitable efforts area on Amazon, you'll find the Standish Foundation in there. And what can happen then, anytime when you add Standish Foundation, anytime you ever make a purchase on Amazon now, Amazon gives a portion of what you spend to the Standish Foundation at no extra charge to you. They have a committed amount of money that each year that they support foundations, that they want to give to the money to foundations. But you, the consumer, can sign up. Doesn't cost you anything, doesn't cost you anything extra, and the Standish Foundation wins. So it's just something I like to mention. We have a lot of people that just purely, they write a check, or they write a check monthly or quarterly. But that's a way for all subscribers to do something that doesn't cost you anything to help kids. And who doesn't want to help kids?
Wait a minute now. Let me process this. You're telling me, and by the way, between myself and my daughter, we almost get something from Amazon every day. You're telling me that I can buy something from Amazon and donate to your organization without spending extra money?
It doesn't cost you a dime, and it's the StandishFoundation.org. You can go to that website. There's a video on there from Andrea, who is the executive director of the Standish Foundation. You can hear in her words, and you can see her face in a video, and she'll tell you exactly what the Standish Foundation does for children. And if you can't contribute through the site, you sign up at Amazon. It doesn't cost you anything, and you can stay signed up for years to come. And it's just a little bit from everybody adds up to something, and something will help a lot of kids.
Yeah, I'm not going to keep you long, because I know you have another event, and we're going to be wrapping up real soon. But I am, one of my loves is healthcare. I like gold and silver, but I actually am in the healthcare. I've done a lot in the healthcare system, and I know how important it is especially for our children, to be able to have a comfort zone in the hospital so that they can heal. And your foundation actually does that through certain means. And I want to encourage everyone to go to that foundation. Please go to www.com Standish Foundation, or I'm sorry, www.standishfoundation.org.
That's it. ORG.
Yeah, it's a. I'm so used to .com on .com, but it's .org.
I catch myself doing the same thing with
My goodness.
Foundation.org.
Yeah.
Org.
I'm about to blow it for you, Miles. I'm about to blow it for you. Anyway, Miles, we love you. Thank you so much. We appreciate you being here. I can't help but tell my audience, I got to tell them this. This is the third take that Miles took.
Buddy,
I had to tell him.
I was going to tell people because of the technical difficulties. This one's going to be so good, it will seem like it took us 3 times.
It did. Miles, thank you. I don't know what to say. It is a privilege for me to have you here.
You're a kind man, Stephen, and a good friend. And I knew that probably within 2 minutes of speaking with you that you had a good heart. And that more importantly says everything to Miles Standish. I like to run with people that have good hearts. We're all a little different, but if our heart's in the right place and our DNA is only about 5% difference, there isn't much difference about us, really.
No, it's not.
I
don't know why people don't understand that, but there's no difference at all. I grew up in a household with a large family, and as I always said, my parents taught us we don't see color, we don't see handicap or anything. We just treat people as people. And of course, I ended up marrying somebody 30 years ago that wants to help children, which was near and dear to my own parents, and it's important to me. And Andrea's made it a lifetime commitment. But it's really what makes the world go around. This isn't rehearsal. We got one shot at this thing called life, and if we just try to have a little bit more fun, smile a little bit more, it can make it a nice ride. Yeah. Thank you so much. And everything you said in your last statements is very true of you. I found that to be the case the minute I met you. I mean, you exude that. And that's the first meeting, the minute I met you. So thank you so much. So we want to let everyone know, if you want to hear an audio recording of this podcast, go to People's Depot, or rather peoplesdepottpodcast.com. See, I'm messing it up. peoplesdepottpodcast.com for audio recording of this podcast. If you want to see a video recording of this podcast, go to the peoplesdepot.com/podcast video. That is the peoplesdepot.com/podcast video, and you will see a video recording before your eyes. I want to thank everyone for listening, and the only thing I have left to say is see you later.